So, if you've ever been to a symphony orchestra concert, you've probably noticed that there's a violinist who walks on stage before the conductor arrives, looks at the audience, bows, and then turns around. That violinist is a concertmaster. This has been my job now for 20 years, and it's a really interesting job, one that is often really misunderstood. Many people see this job as something that's prestigious. It's a high visibility job. You get to play the nice solos. Sometimes you even get your own dressing room. But really, at the base of it all, it is a job about service and a job involved with power and influence. We live in a world where power is often associated with being loud, and influence is often associated with visibility. I would like to say that maybe we need to think about this differently. When I turn around from the audience to the orchestra, without saying a word, I'm able to set the tone of the concert that is to come. I do it with my eyes. I do it with my smile. I do it with my body language. And I do so with my approach to eye contact and connection with my colleagues. I am able to encourage and say, come together, let's be as one, and let's be in sync for the next couple of hours. In other words, I am able to exercise power and influence before I open my mouth or anybody makes a sound. Now, if we think about the concertmaster's role, maybe it would be good to bring you into the idea of a symphonic rehearsal, a professional one. If you haven't been in one before, it's a really amazing thing. 30 minutes or so before people start to arrive, all of them with decades of experience, sometimes decades of education, artistic convictions of their own, opinions for sure, and probably really big personalities. And so, in the 30 minutes before the rehearsal begins, the room becomes louder and louder and louder as everyone warms up, prepares their bodies and their minds for what is to come. Now, the average North American orchestra has 12 to 14 hours of rehearsal time for 1 2.5-hour masterworks program. That's not a lot when you consider how many notes are there. So, of course, the conductor has the ultimate responsibility, but the concertmaster is responsible for lots as well. How will we articulate? How will the string players play together? The concertmaster is responsible for deciding in which direction the bows will go for every note. So, the concertmaster, or in my case, one of the first big lessons I learned as a concertmaster was that you have a choice. In moments of responsibility and moments of power, you can lead by force, you can use your voice, you can play louder, you can talk more, or you can take another approach. And 20 years in, not only has it been a wonderful artistic experience, but it has been a wonderful 20-year study in what it is to be quietly powerful. Because what I learned quickly was that being loud and using my words, overplaying, maybe even over gesturing, was not going to get me the results I wanted. But do you know what did? Be so prepared that when I arrived, I embodied the thing that I wanted. Being so prepared and so convinced of my own artistic and group-related beliefs that it was easy to trust me to come along. Being absolutely full of integrity in my actions on and off the stage so that I had the trust of my colleagues. when things went well and when things didn't go so well. So what if we looked at leadership and power from another standpoint? What if we went back to society's view of it, which says volume equals authority and visibility equals influence, and said, let's take another approach. What if we could do this quietly? Now, in everybody's concertmaster careers, there are concerts that don't go quite as planned. Mine is no different. Early on in my career, I was leading a wonderful piece of music called Concerto for Orchestra. It's by Bela Bartok. If you don't know it, you should. It's a marvelous piece that allows the whole orchestra to shine. It's complex, it's complicated, it's a lot of fun to play. And on this particular evening, a young principal trumpet player made an error. He's a human, that happens. And by making a wrong early entry, he managed to take half of the orchestra with him. So in that moment, in a split second, we went from a wonderful, smooth performance to two completely different realities on the same stage, both moving forward very quickly. And it is in these moments that concertmasters learn and display the next lesson of concert mastering, which is how to be a lighthouse in the storm and how to be steady when it counts. So what happens actually when that goes on stage? Well, first of all, you can feel the tension in the air. You could cut it with a knife. You can feel your colleagues looking around thinking, uh-oh, how did we get here and how did we get out of it? And then you feel the sense of suspicion, like maybe we won't get out of it. Then it becomes my job, along with the conductor, to do three really important things. Analyze, uh-oh, what went wrong? Where is everybody? Assess, well, what's the best course of action now? And then anchor, to be the steady, non-judgmental beacon of lighthouse in the storm. And what might have been the longest 6 seconds of my professional career, the waves came back together again. We smiled and continued as if nothing had happened. Analyze, assess, and anchor. Those are words that I live by, both on the stage and off. So why should we care about this? When you think about it, a symphony orchestra is kind of a living museum. It's something I think is really important. I think that you don't really know what Mahler's Second Symphony is going to do for you until you hear it. But why does any of this count in the real world? Well, here's the thing. I wear many hats in life. I wear my concertmaster hat, but I'm also a parent. I'm a business owner. I help to structure organizations, and I move through various both political and professional contexts that are sometimes a little bit sensitive and complicated. Those same skill sets, analyze, assess, and anchor. And the idea of using quiet power instead of trying to be the loudest voice in the room have served me incredibly well. Why? Because power is not necessarily loud. Power comes from being so knowledgeable in what you do that you embody what it is you believe. Power comes from acting in a way that is so trustworthy that those around you have no hesitations about coming along with you. As I look at today's world as a parent, I see a generation that's growing up with influences that say you must be super assertive, that the loudest person is the most powerful, or that the most visible or the one with the most likes or most views is the most influential. But I would challenge you today to think about it differently. What if the most powerful person in the room was not the loudest? What if the most powerful person in the room was the person who had shown up the best prepared, who had embodied what it was to live and work with integrity, and who had the trust of their colleagues so that they could work together and influence them before they had even said a word?